I was turned on to this issue because I had so many friends, either current or former service members, who were going down to a specific clinic and doing Ibogaine. One treatment of Ibogaine would cure them of addiction, cure them of their inner demons, their PTSD. They were balanced afterwards. And it was described to me more and more by people I really knew well, who I knew had seen trauma, and I said, we have to do something about this. We have to look at this more, research it the proper way, go through the proper FDA clinical trial studies, and that's how this was born and put into the NDAA. You know, start with our service members, start with our veterans, but the possibilities are endless from there. There's promise on drug addiction. There's promise for victims of sexual trauma. What about law enforcement officers who deal with what they deal with every single day? There's a lot of people in our country that could use effective treatments that are feeling hopeless right now. That's why you're seeing this kind of bipartisanship. Now there's going to be some questions on what exactly is getting passed, so I'll just go ahead and answer those real quick. There is an underlying bill that we're all co-sponsors of that I like. I have it on word of the speaker that we're going to continue to try and make sure that original language makes it into conference and makes it into the final NDA passed by the president. I still have some concerns that what's currently in there does not fund what we wanted to fund in the DoD, nor does it exactly specify that these need to be clinical trials, just like our original bill that we worked on did. We're going to fix that. I have confidence that that will get fixed. You know why? Because I still can't find one member of Congress that is actually opposed to this. The obstacles we have run into have largely been procedural at the staff level, but I still can't find one member of Congress who would say that they're against this. That's an amazing thing. I think that's why this will succeed. It should succeed. It's helped a lot of people already. You've seen me up here before, bringing my fellow Navy SEALs, bringing former Army service members up here, talking about their testimonies and how this saved their lives. It's really incredible, and I'm really happy to be doing this and showing that, look, we can disagree on a lot up here, but when we find something we can't agree on, we just get it done. And that's what's happening today. We're really excited about that. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to my friend, Representative Correa.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you to my colleagues for being here today. As was stated earlier, 2019, the first bill that Ms. Alexandria presented, 90 votes, ayes. Today, we're on the verge of success. This is so important, so critically important, not only for our veterans, but for our society. Let me tell you a story. I was at one of these caucus meetings with General Jack Bergman. There's probably a dozen SEALs there, veterans, all saying if it was not for this treatment, I would have probably taken my life. I was contemplating taking my life, then I found this treatment. And I asked them, I said, well, if it can't do it here, where did you get it done? Mexico, Costa Rica, other countries. Shameful that the one thing that works for veterans is not legal in the United States. These veterans that fought for our country saw things that no human being should see. They come back to America and say, help us. And we say, no, it's against the law. Are you kidding me? This is the state of a bureaucracy called the federal government of the United States. And that's why we need to change how we do business in Washington. And let me say, this is not just about veterans. A few weeks ago, I was back home speaking to a medical professional, a neighbor who I'm not going to name. He's telling this individual this story that I just told you. And this person tells me, well, you know, Lou, I had trauma in my life a couple of years ago. And I may have turned to this for help. And this person says, and I may have been totally cured. But they can't come out and say what they've done because it's against the law. It's a healthcare profession. That is not, ladies and gentlemen, the way to run a country. The stigma placed on these possible medical solutions that work from the failed war on drugs is terrible. The cost this war on drugs keeps exhausting on our society is unacceptable. I want to thank my colleague from New York and other colleagues that are members of our syllabus caucus for their good work. Let's get busy. Thank you very much.
We'll take any on-topic questions. It's too hot for off-topic, so go for it.
Have you put any thought into what success in this study looks like? Like, if you learn this and you want to pursue this being permanent?
Yeah, you know, I think when it came to our the original iteration of this bill when we first introduced it in 2019 was to really remove federal barriers to study writ large. And right now, the federal government has had barriers to funding or participating, supporting in any way the study of any Schedule I drug. And that has prevented the U.S. federal government from being able to obtain critical data around this drug. So, you know, in terms of our goal for this, is that if we are able to engage in clinical study, we can use that information to make further decisions about whether this is something that we can develop further, whether something we can expand upon further. But right now our hands are tied in terms of getting the science that we need to make those decisions. Right there.
Was there any discussion about trying to do something moving forward to just reclassify it so it's not a Schedule I drug? Because wouldn't that also just remove all the barriers you're now facing when it comes to getting it for trials?
Right. Well, you know, I think that also speaks to kind of the chicken and egg situation that we are in. I think it would be very difficult for us to be able to advocate for declassification or reclassification without data around this. You know, these are powerful substances. I don't want to give short shrift to that. But what that means, but they also have powerful potential as well. And so with clinical study, with some of that application, we can understand exactly the contours of application and what circumstances are appropriate for that application and other circumstances where necessary, you know, if there are contraindications. And so, you know, I believe that when it comes to descheduling, rescheduling, once we get that data, we may start the road to that conversation, but that would be, you know, some time out, I believe. We need to get that data first.
Can I add a little bit to that?
Last question.
Just wanted to say that think about the situation right now. I believe these veterans when they tell me 80% success rate. I believe these veterans when they say 80% success rate. We just have to show that data to the rest of the federal government in order to change the laws. I cannot believe that we're just sitting there saying, prove it to me, show it to me. Well, that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do, and that's why these studies are so important. Thank you.
All right, last question here in the blue.
Congresswoman Basil Gumman, Nexstar. So, I mean, NIH already has their own studies stating that, you know, when it comes to the psychedelics, it does considerably help with PTSD, and these studies have been out for some time. Considering the amount of years that you and your colleagues have put into this, how confident are you that you'll at least get more than just a basic majority to get this added to the NDA?
I do feel quite confident about this, and this has been, as you mentioned, years in the making. And as you also mentioned, while there is some progress and some preliminary results coming out of NIH, because of these kind of federal prohibitions, our ability to really deeply explore this venue in terms of scientific and medical development is very, very limited. But that being said, the stigma around these substances is very real, and we have encountered it here in this chamber for a long period of time. But there has been a sea change on this issue, and particularly a sea change around the idea that we should at least explore this scientifically. And so I do feel quite confident as far as that goes. Now there's a whole other question, there are whole other areas of debate where there is a lot of disagreements, such as rescheduling, etc. But I do believe that we have finally achieved consensus, bipartisan consensus, and agreement on the ability to study these substances.
All right, thank you guys.
Just very quickly, you mentioned, we talked about Schedule I. Do you know how this would work with Schedule I? And how would the trial, I mean, just practically, how would it work?
Right. Well, the language is explicit in the NDAA. Right now, it is to allow in within a defense context to be able to kind of pursue these kinds of studies explicitly in the base text of the bill. But when it comes to scheduling, that is, I think, a separate conversation.
All right, thank you guys.
You plan to attend the Israeli president to address before Congress next week? You plan to attend the Israeli president's address before Congress next week?
Oh, sorry, Congresswoman. Thank you so much. Have a good day.